Alright, it's time for another part of our solo materials farming series. This time we're going to be revisiting Ember Bay and killing destroyers. If you've watched my older videos, you might recognize this farm and location, but trust me, you're gonna wanna see this update. Whereas previously I would be getting 12 to 14 gold an hour, I managed to figure out how we can bump up this number to 20 gold per hour and above. My worst session sat at just above 21, while my luckiest yielded a ridiculous 27 gold per hour. And this number isn't even taking Spirit Shards, Karma, or Unbound Magic into account. All we're doing is killing destroyers. Well, destroyers and a few extra enemies. I'll explain why in a bit, but let's first dissect the gold per hour rate, so you know what to expect in terms of loot. The destroyers we're targeting will be mainly dropping tier 5 and 6 claws. You can expect over 100 of the tier 5 and 50 to 60 tier 6 claws an hour. To put this into perspective, a stack of tier 6 claws will only take you 5 hours of farming. That's actually not too bad if you need them for your legendary gear. Two of the other main contributors will be destroyer Lodestones and piles of flax seeds. I've been getting 4 Lodestones every 30 minutes, so that's 8 an hour or almost 3 extra gold per hour. If you like achievement hunting, you're gonna wanna hang on to these. They're required for the destroyer weapons collection as well as 2 other unique skins. And they're one of the main ingredients for amalgamated draconic lodestones, which you'll also need for a bunch of other collections. The flax that drops from these enemies is nothing to scoff at either. You'll get about 50 piles per hour, which is a nice bonus. To get to this location, you'll need to have Ember Bay unlocked, which is part of the Living World Season 3 story, and you want to teleport to the Scratch Gate waypoint. In contrast to my older video, I had to expand my route to now also include killing Karka and Scale. These Karka will drop tier 5 and 6 blood, as well as Karka shells. All of these will add a decent amount to the overall gold you'll be making. The reason I had to expand my route was because my build is killing the destroyers so fast, they don't have enough time to respawn anymore. I'll link the build in the pinned comment and make a dedicated video later on. If you wanna try it out for yourself, just use the unleashed pet abilities of cooldown and use your unleashed ranger ambush whenever you can. The axe ambush is pretty broken as it deals a ridiculous amount of damage and targets mobs all around you. Alright, now let's talk about how we improved the gold per hour. Previously, I was just running around killing destroyers and doing the Fisher event. When it comes to this event, you actually want to delay destroying the Fisher until you've killed most, if not all of the spawn destroyers. The moment you destroy the Fisher, any of the extra spawn mobs will disappear and this Fisher will spawn a lot of them. The event happens rather frequently, and whenever it does, drop whatever you're doing and make a beeline for the Fisher. The amount of loot and experience you're gonna get from it will always be worth it. But that's not all. I started noticing moments where destroyers in the main area would stop spawning all of a sudden. Needless to say, this impacted the amount of loot we were getting and killed my gold per hour rate. If you notice this happening to you, that's because one of the Scrit events is going on. Their expedition to kill the Karka Queen won't affect your gold per hour as much. In fact, it'll spawn a few extra enemies to kill and that's it. But if they're going on a treasure hunting expedition to the north, a lot of the destroyers will just stop spawning. So whenever that event is going on, try and help finish it as soon as you can. If you're new to this zone or fighting destroyers in general, you might be taking more damage than you're comfortable with. To combat this, you'll want to learn about the destroyer's attack patterns. Changing gear or build won't help out as much, but some extra sustain might provide a nice safety blanket when you're just starting out. Destroyer trolls won't pose that much of a threat to you, whereas destroyer harpies might wreck you if you don't touch their fireball attack. Whenever you engage them, you'll notice them flying up in the air and evade all of your attacks for a brief moment. When they swoop back down, they'll launch a triple fireball at you, which will deal some heavy damage. One of those shouldn't be enough to kill you, but if you're doing the Fisher event, don't try and face tank 3 or 4 of those attacks at the same time. All you need to do to avoid all of the damage is either dodge out of the way whenever they're swooping down, or use a projectile block or reflect skill. And these harpies can be deadly, especially in combination with destroyer crabs. The crabs themselves deal reasonable damage, but the issue is them rooting you, and whenever you're rooted, you won't be able to dodge the fireballs from the harpies. If you're fighting one of each at the same time, you won't have to worry as much. Just make sure you have a plan when you're doing the Fisher event. In the footage, you'll see I don't really care and aggro all of them by attacking the Fisher, but I'm still watching out for those harpies attacks. The first few times you're farming here, it might be safer to kill pack by pack instead of summoning your inner Leroy Jenkins. And that's all there is to it. If you have any other comments or questions, feel free to ask them down below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.